Hello! Hi. Hello. Hello? Hello. How do you hello?
Not like any of those.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hidden Doors and High Scores, a podcast where four dudes talk about gaming. Today we are going to be reviewing and awarding some of the best games of 2021. I'm Austin.
I'm Garrett.
I'm John.
And I'm Chris. All right, so we're going to give you, lowdown breakdown on some categories that we arbitrarily made up for games that came out in 2021.
Chris, you can't make us sound like a bunch of amateurs.
What, we're 100% a bunch of amateurs. I haven't been paid a single cent for this. I'm therefore still an amateur. We're going to go.
Truth.
These are
100% truth.
I guess we're not going to do it sort of like in an award show style, but you should think of these as the awards that we're all giving out individually for certain games in these categories we've invented for 2021. So, Austin, you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the next part of the show, we're going to do a lowdown on a bunch of our favorite games of 2021 and kind of the standout winners of 2021 in our opinion. All right, so our first award is Best Visual Style of 2021. Who's got something to nominate?
Well, first off, I think Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart deserves some kind of nod. It's like you're playing a Pixar movie. The graphics are insane, especially when you're going in between rifts. It just is so clean. It's on the PS5, so you can play it 60 frames per second, which I know PC's been doing forever, but it just looks so much better. The gameplay, if you played the previous Ratchet and Clank, most of the weapons are clones. The gameplay is very similar.
But it was pretty and felt like you were playing a Pixar movie. So, hey, that's good enough for Best Visual Style.
Not one that most of you guys would play, but visually, I would have to say Forza Horizon 5 is just visually. They do well every time they make a Forza game. I know it's not a game that is going to get many rewards. It's just a repeat after repeat, but visually, it's just very beautiful. Yeah, it does well if you've got a good monitor set up for it and something that can run it at high settings. Fantastic.
Does it just have ridiculous lighting effects?
Yeah, everything. Cars, the cars look like real cars. Trees look like actual trees. Like the road and the water on the road, you can see a reflection of your car. Like if you've got a rig and something that can handle high qualities, then it's gorgeous.
For me, it's the new Pokemon Snap. I will say that with the caveat that I'm pretty drastically comparing it with the original Pokemon Snap on the Nintendo 64. But since I have been fiending for a sequel to that ever since it came out 20 years ago, I loved how the new Pokemon Snap game looked. Later we'll get into the gameplay, but visually it was phenomenal. The very first level of it, you play, this sort of foresty, beachy type of thing in the daytime. At the very end of it, you're in this field of flowers with all these Pokemon in it. And it was just, dude, it absolutely blew my mind. It was everything I ever wanted from that game, and they nailed it.
I mean, I think that's good and appropriate. If you're going to make a game that is literally just about taking pictures of Pokemon, it should be beautiful.
100%.
The visual should blow you away. So I'm glad to hear that they nailed that. We'll probably mention this game a few times this show, but I just wanted to bring up It Takes Two. Also, if you listen to our last episode, you know all about it. It Takes Two, if you for some reason didn't listen to our last episode, is a 2-player co-op game by Hazelight Studios. And the thing about It Takes Two that makes it so wonderful is that every episode takes place in a totally different sort of biome, a totally different area with totally different audio and visual cues. So, the first episode you're in the workshop, and in the second you're in a workshop, and in the second level you're in the garden, and in the third level you're inside the kids play box. Those probably aren't the exact level order, but you get what I'm saying. Like every level feels totally different, and they just nailed the visuals for this game. They are bright and fun and happy. And I was actually just really impressed by all the different textures and sort of ways they did different environments. Like Cody is made of clay and May is made of wood and has like yarn for hair, and all of those just like really pop and feel different. And then in addition, like every level you go to, when you're in like the backyard and it's all swampy, like they just did a good job making everything feel like wet and drippy and like muddy on the ground. And I think the visuals really informed the gameplay the whole time through that game, and they really did a good job making everything feel different.
Also, there's just a bunch of really cool camera angles in that game sometimes. Like, there's a part where you're in the clock tower, the camera like specifically shifts down to like make you look up at a clock face while you're like running along your thing, and you're like not platforming, you're not puzzle solving or anything. Your characters are literally just running in a straight line, and you are meant to look at this just like landscape type of thing that is just beautiful. And there's no reason for them to put that in the game other than to make it look cool.
Let's do another category. Let's do best new concept. So I'll talk about a game for this. There's a game that came out this year, kind of an indie title called Inscription. It is a game, I would say it's primarily a deck builder, but this is a single player game. You're not playing against other players, you're playing against the game. It has escape room elements. It has full FMV, like real world video in it of a meta plot that's going on. Like the game you're playing is a guy playing the game, and then you get YouTube videos that he's making throughout exploring the game, and it's got a really cool story, and the game changes multiple times without really spoiling anything. There's at least 3 entirely different games in this game, and I've never seen a game so flawlessly sort of combine different games into one cohesive plot and game structure, as well as like building in these alternate reality game elements and escape room elements. It's like nothing I've ever quite played. Daniel Mullins made this game, and he's made 2 other games, Pony Island and The Hex, and he really likes to explore glitches and meta software ideas in his games. And I know that sounds weird, but it's all very, very interesting and cool, and I'm not a software nerd. So Inscription, really cool gameplay. Never seen anything quite like it. Really liked it.
Also, another really cool concept that came out this year. It's a game called Loop Hero.
Oh yeah, totally agreed.
You are basically building a dungeon for the hero that keeps moving around in a circle to eventually fight a boss, but you're building a dungeon that gets more and more complex. And by making it more complex and harder, you're getting more rewards.
Yeah, and there's like permanent upgrades that you're working towards, and you're basically rebuilding this whole world. But the gameplay is literally just there's a little knight, and she's running in a loop, and you just keep adding like more places for monsters to spawn and places for her to heal and things to this loop. And sort of the more challenges and difficulties you give her, if she survives, she'll get better gear and better abilities and whatever. But if you make it really easy, then she won't be strong enough to like fight the final boss at the end. So it's this game of you want to make it as hard as possible, but not kill her. And I've just never seen a game designed quite like it. It's really interesting.
I think this was a great idea for a game. I want to see someone push it further.
I would agree. There's not enough variety.
I feel like once you figured out the correct way to play and the correct builds to go, it became pretty easy and very repetitive. But I love the concept, and I would love to see someone push this further.
Yep, I would totally agree. Like there's not enough different types of terrain and things you can put in the loop to keep it fresh. Like you do unlock more as the game goes on, but it just never varies enough to keep me going personally. I could totally see how people get lost in it, but I probably played like 10 hours and I was like, okay, that was enough.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm getting anything new out of it.
Sadly, it goes stale pretty fast.
Speaking of games that get stale early, should we move on to our next category, the most forgettable game of 2021, and may I nominate Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl.
Oh yeah, that was a game, wasn't it?
It was a game that came out in 2021. In fact, you can still buy it. I don't know why you would. It's very horrible. Sorry for the Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl fans out there. This was clearly just a grab on to hang on to the Super Smash Brothers Ultimate coattails years after SSBU came out.
Yeah, the audience should note and may already know we love Smash. We play a lot of Smash, and so we were kind of excited about this. And then as the game started coming out, and it was just clear that it wasn't really finished or polished or well done.
And what was its greatest sin, Austin?
Its greatest sin, and this is unforgivable, is you bring back all of these nostalgic childhood characters, right? That's the whole selling point of the game, is I'm going to give you Nickelodeon characters. You remember Nickelodeon, kids. You remember Hey Arnold and Real Monsters and SpongeBob SquarePants. All right, we're going to put all your favorite characters in this game, and we're going to make them fight each other. All right, great. Now, when the characters use their moves on the screen or, hit each other, you would imagine that they would make sounds, perhaps even the sounds that they made as those characters. For example, SpongeBob, when he hits somebody, might go, and do his little laugh thing. But no, there are no voice lines.
There are no goddamn voice lines.
Wait, so it's just silence when they hit?
There's like hit noises, like or like or whatever, but like the characters don't say anything.
That's insane.
How much money did they spend licensing these characters, and they didn't hire voice actors? They didn't
pay for the rights to the voice lines?
Yeah. They didn't get rights to the voice lines from the shows or anything, to the audio from the shows. The reason this game is terrible is because they entirely catered to the Smash Bros. Competitive scene without realizing that like 90% of the Smash player base is the casual scene. And they didn't think about the fact that those people are already pros at Smash Bros. And aren't going to switch to a new game.
My nominee for most forgettable, which was hyped massively because of Twitch and Amazon, New World. What happened? It kind of fell flat on its face.
Oh, you mean the game that bricked everybody's GPUs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty unforgivable sin. I think a lot of people were like, I think I'll stay away.
Yeah, so that game...
I have to say, we made a list, and I can't believe we forgot to put that on the list.
No, I was literally thinking about I was thinking
that is the award for truly the most forgettable game, is the game that you forget to even put on the list.
So, like, literally, it's an Amazon game, so obviously they own Twitch. You do expect it to be a game that people play, right? And, like, watch and follow. No, it's only got, like, 2,000 concurrent viewers. Like, it's pathetic. And they like, overhyped the hell out of that game.
Honestly, going into that game and realizing you had to pay real money to fast travel, I was done. I was out.
Yeah, they had way too much pay to play game. They had way too much pay to play gameplay.
As of the day of this episode's recording, their concurrent players is less than 3% of what their peak was in September. That's a pretty bad fall off.
I believe it.
Yeah, so it was that would definitely be my top one. I was like hyped for it. I was ready for it to come out last year. All right, let's move on to the next one. Best co-op experience for last year. Austin, take it away.
I got 3 words for you, John.
Okay.
It Takes Two.
If you listen to our last episode, you might think we like the game.
I mean, it's definitely the best co-op game of last year. It might be the best co-op game of all time. Pretty much just listen to our last episode. We go into a lot more detail. It wins this category. Let's move on.
All right, let's move on. Our next category is good idea, bad execution. And I think there's quite a few games that'll fall into this category. Lots of times game developers come to their games with a really good idea for a concept for a game, and then they just screw up some aspect of the game and make it not fun to play. So I will throw my ring in the hat here with Deathloop's multiplayer components. I think Deathloop's single player was pretty well executed. It could have been a little more nuanced, but yeah, I'm not going to pick nits. It was a pretty fun single player. The multiplayer was a freaking mess, top to bottom, from extremely long wait times to getting kicked out of people's servers to people in your server like glitching around and not having their hit detection work right. The leveling up system in it was bad. It was bad. I guess for anyone who doesn't know about Deathloop, it's a roguelike, so it's a first person shooter. You're going through and you're trying to like kill people, and then if you die, you wake up and you sort of start the game over. You start like the level over, but you keep all your knowledge of things and you keep some permanent upgrades. And then the cool part about this game is they added this multiplayer where someone else can like come into your world and try and kill you, and you can kill them. And if you kill them, then you get a bunch of rewards. But if they kill you, you start your loop over. And it's a bad thing to happen. It's a harsh consequence. But the AI in the game were so uninteresting that like playing against a real person was really exciting. It just never worked well.
Yeah, the big problem was they built the whole game around that interaction. And when that interaction didn't work, everything else in the game felt off because the enemy difficulty was not that high because you had to worry about Joanna the whole game, which is the multiplayer force that's coming in. So without that whole component working, the game either felt too easy.
Yeah, totally.
But man, when the game's working right, some of the most fun is some of the interactions you have between that other multiplayer player and trying to beat the level at the same time.
Dude, I was going to say the exact same thing. I would say the highlights of this game were when somebody invaded my world or when I invaded somebody else's and we had an epic ass battle where we were fighting it off on the rooftops and then I went invisible and went behind them and laid a trap and then killed them, or they did it to me and like snuck up on me and stabbed me while I was trying to trap them. Amazing. Such cool moments in that game. They were just so outnumbered by really, really shitty moments of being in the middle of a combat and then they would just like vanish from your world and disappear because of a connection error. And you're like, oh, cool.
I would just kind of reiterate on what we said earlier about Most Forgettable with New World. I mean, they had a great thing going. I mean, like I said, Amazon's got stupid money. They could have made a fantastic, brilliant game. And they had a good structure and an idea of it, but then when they started just doing the pay to play, it terrible.
Yeah, it was a cool idea. Like the story was interesting about like this like, you know, sort of forbidden continent that they're getting to, and it's basically colonial America, but that, you know, it had this kind of cool supernatural element, and they had like the faction system where they're like trying to take over different areas of the world map, and like that affects the prices for things. And like,
yeah, and I love the crafting in that game.
Yeah, the crafting mechanic was interesting, but boy, they missed the mark with a few things.
I'll just also add that Pokemon Brilliant Diamond, not necessarily specifically that game, but just every Pokemon game, every generation gets remade every once in a while, and I just don't get it. Like, it's just stop. Just make a new game.
I mean, it's a money printer at this point.
No, I get it. I get it. And then like there's like what they do is like they add, more recent generations, Pokemons or mechanic or whatever to an older generation to change up the gameplay, or I guess, I don't know. But just come on, dude, make a new game.
All right, this episode was running a little bit too long, so check back for part 2 next week. Bye.